Okay, so for phase 2 of the case study, it states that the nurse is conducting a physical assessment and the patient's safety. The patient identified there's supposed to be 8 missed errors here, and so for this phase, once again, I was kind of nitpicking everything. So she did not wash her hands, as I stated previously. Anytime she ever entered the room, I never saw her even mention, hey, I've already washed my hands or anything like that. So I always want to make sure I hit that one. So she did not wash her hands upon entering the room. She did not identify herself. When she was obtaining the vital signs, she never told the patient where to put his finger after she put the pulse oximetry on his finger. She was just like, hey, give me your finger, and then she just left it alone. Also, she put the blood pressure cuff on the same arm as the pulse oximetry, and me as a nurse, I would have put it on the opposite arm, or put the pulse ox on one arm, one finger on an arm, and then put the blood pressure cuff on the other. That way it didn't contraindicate what the pulse ox was reading. Also, whenever she first walked in, she forgot to put her mask on. It was just kind of hanging on her chin. So if you're going to have the PPE, you need to make sure you have the PPE on the minute you walk in the patient's room, or it's kind of pointless. She should have visualized his stomach upon assessment. She kind of just asked, where does it hurt? Okay, and then she started pushing around on it. She never looked to see if anything was wrong with it. She never visualized. She told him she was going to listen to his heart and lungs. I never really saw her have him sit up so she could listen to his heart. She never asked him to sit up in the bed or anything like that. She never listened to his back for listening to his lungs. She made him roll over, but she had the side rail down. So that was another big safety issue, is that she knocked that one side rail down, and the bed was not all the way to the floor. Maybe it might have been, but I just feel like it could have been lower to the ground maybe. But if it's going to be up like that, she needed to have the side rail up, but it honestly needed to be lower to the ground. I'm not sure if he was on where he needed to be at bed rest, but she kept telling him, you need to stay in bed, you need to stay in bed, you need to stay in bed, pretty much throughout all the videos towards the end. So if there was a reason why he couldn't be out of bed, then it needed to be closer to the ground, the bed did, or she needed to put that side rail up, so at least so he didn't fall out of bed, because a lot of times it looked like he was going to fall out of bed, and he was even acting out how he was falling out of bed. So that was another big issue. Whenever she went to go do everything with the stomach, she never osculated his stomach to listen to the bowel sounds that I saw or noticed. I tried to watch it a couple times to make sure I didn't miss it, so maybe I did, but I didn't notice her osculate his bowel sounds or visualize. She just started to press on his stomach, and as a nurse, if a patient has stomach issues and stomach pain, you always want to osculate the stomach to listen for adequate bowel sounds before you press on the stomach, because you don't want to make the situation worse than it is, and you always want to visualize whatever you're pressing onto, because say that she didn't know why he was in there and he had a gunshot wound, now you're just pressing on the wound. So also, whenever she went around to the other side to check his temperature and she left that side rail down, there was no temperature probe, so she just felt with her hand on his temperature or his head and was kind of like, oh, okay, yeah, you're warm. She never got an accurate temperature because it was out of probes. And she noticed that he was falling out of bed. She could have fixed the side rail, like I said, but she just left it. And she never, asked if he needed his call bell, never ever asked if he needed anything, just kind of left him like he was. So I felt like this was an issue as well. And whenever she was doing his vitals the first time around, I never noticed that she got his pulse, and if she did, she didn't do it accurately because it was so quick that I didn't notice it. So that was another thing that she should have done, and just check his respirations.